Hello, my name is Alexander Kerry. Welcome to the program. The toppling of the Lenin statue in the center of Kyiv at the beginning of the Euromaidan protests sparked a decommunization process in Ukraine. Nearly 4 years later, and hundreds of statues dedicated to Soviet leaders have been taken down. In Kyiv, art platform Izolatsia has decided to change people's perceptions of statues dedicated to leaders and heroes through art installations. Romanian artist Manuel Pelmus has been invited to the Ukrainian capital to take part in this project. He joins us now in our studio. Welcome. Thank you for joining us.
Thanks for inviting me.
So the first question is, the idea of the project is to, as I understand, to change people's mind, people's perceptions of heroes. Can you tell us more about it?
Yeah, maybe that would be a little bit too far-fetched, but the idea was to produce a monument that maybe proposes, instead of like a one unique view and something that is kind of solidifying in kind of one narrative, something that proposes kind of a transformation. So we take a starting point from the Lenin monument, so we don't kind of deny that it existed or the memory of it or the history of it exists, but then the work proposes to transform it into something that it's a multiple. So it's never one person or one view that would install this monument, but actually we had 18 participants which transformed the initial Lenin monument into kind of 18 different things that are also one.
So it's like people go to the pedestal or around the pedestal and play a statue or change their...
Yeah, I mean, they had quite precise instructions, but the idea was okay because it's a public space. So also we wanted to question what public space means, because it's usually used by, let's say, instrumentalized, maybe it's too much to say, but it usually represents an official point of view.
Institutional.
Someone decides what we are going to have there, if it's a good hero or not a good hero. So the idea was to also ask people, like inhabitants of Kiev, what would they like to have at this place. But still we had quite a clear structure, so the initial task was to start embodying the statue of Lenin that existed there. So we did the pose with 18 people accumulating, but it was like 18 Lenins. And because the statue is, of course, missing, it's been toppled. And then gradually, like a monument that would be kind of in movement, like a sculpture, a statue that is in movement, it would kind of change. So, and then it changed, the Lenin changed into what each participant wanted it to be,
So, so would you say that this is a chance for people to look at history differently, even by distancing themselves, or as you said, like as a moving statue, it becomes something more human, maybe?
Yeah, maybe it's just a proposal to like how you could rethink some of these, commemoration sites, and also maybe to propose something that is kind of a space for transformation or production. Imagine like something simple, so we don't sound too pretentious, like. Let's say that the state would acquire this monument, the one that I proposed, or the city, So instead of having, like a one fixed statue, like which represents one vision, it would be, let's say, shown every week, every Tuesday or every month for 2-3 hours, and it would be kind of shifting, So I was imagining something that proposes a different relationship to history and to memory. So it's something that it's in movement rather than fixed, and something that it's kind of up for discussion. So it's a bit more playful and open-ended,
so interactive,
rather than something closed.
So creating a story more than history in some sort of ways.
Yeah.
So as your performance works on the idea of involving people into art. What's the feedback that you've received and that you heard from Ukrainian? Has been the perception good, bad? Like what's the?
It just happened last night.
Yes.
Quite late, so everyone was quite frozen, and we kind of left.
Okay.
So I have an artist talk today at 7. I don't know if maybe some of your viewers would like to attend.
It's in the Izolatsia platform.
It's at Izolatsia at 7 o'clock.
At 7 o'clock, yeah.
So I will get to know a little bit more about it. But of course, I'm aware of the fact that, the site is kind of, has a political connotation, obviously. I'm aware of the debates. I'm Romanian, so I'm also familiar with this kind of history, like the post-Soviet history. So I'm aware that the Lenin statue means something, and all this toppling of the statues, all this idea of the decommunization process also is debated, and it's a heated debate among people. But so my proposal was basically, instead of like removing by destroying something, or on the contrary, trying nostalgically to keep something from the past, I kind of opted for neither of, but like take a starting point in that history, acknowledge that it exists, like debate it, and maybe try to kind of shift it into something that people might find interesting.
So as you said, you're Romanian, you're from this post-Soviet country.
Yeah.
And well, in Ukraine also, it's this decommunization process is a crucial part of after the Euromaidan. Do you think that art is fundamental to get through this process?
Well, I think obviously it can produce some kind of reflection or make propositions on how to, especially thinking about, like history or memory, how to work with them. The decommunization idea is, like if you look at, neighboring countries, I'm not saying that it's the same situation. None of the post-socialist kind of socialist bloc is similar. But if you look like in Hungary or in Poland, what the process of decommunization produced was kind of like a witch hunt, very much instrumentalized by right-wing politicians, which were, using the argument of the decommunization to kind of wipe off rivals.
And to be replaced by them.
Yes, and it went really far. Like, for example, institutions that would be critical to them, they would be, accused of being communists. Yeah. Like if you take Poland especially, it's quite rough. I'm just coming from Budapest, where I did another public monument with kids. And that is also used in this way, So I'm also like, I understand the sort of animosity towards this communist past. I'm also aware that it's very tense here with the whole situation in Russia. But I would just, it's kind of interesting to reflect a bit on what does it mean, And then there was one comment, actually, someone who told me that they don't want to be part of communism, with this work, And, I understand the fear, but somehow, I would say that our present today in all these countries is a capitalist one. And I don't see the kind of, we don't live in a kind of communist present. So I would just think it's a little bit more, maybe art can help to like, maybe make the question a little bit more, I don't know,
distance, but
complex, or just ask a few questions that are maybe interesting to think of.
Is it a way to overcome some sort of stigma? You said like that was a political instrument and things like that. Is it a way to overcome and to create that reflection?
To come to terms somehow. But this is not unique. I'm not saying it in a kind of like a critical, in a bad way towards Ukraine or the ex-Eastern countries. You have it in Germany. There is this kind of impulse. Like for example in Berlin, they destroyed. There's this place called Palast der Republik, which is to be like kind of the parliament of Eastern Europe, of Eastern Germany. And they try to rebuild the castle of the king, which was before the communists came, And it's kind of very weird, actually, kind of a conservative dream, I think, because you cannot really undo history like that, I think. But the last thing I want to say, just to not seem arrogant or anything, is like, with this project, I wasn't interested in like, I don't want to be opinionated on politics in Ukraine because I don't know enough. So I cannot say, it's like that or it's like that because, I think so, or that's my opinion. It was more like to think of the politics of representation of this site, So through some kind of formal aspect, what does it usually, what a public monument usually represents, what's the form, what's its structure, and so on in a particular context. In that sense, I was thinking of politics, but it's
in a wider sense, politics in a sense.
Yeah, in a sense. I think it has very precise politics, but it's not up to me to come here and say, those guys are good and those guys are bad, because I know it's very intricate. And if you don't live here, I think it's very difficult to get all the nuances, and that would be kind of maybe a wrong statement. So yeah.
It's more of a proposal than
it's more of a reflection on like memory, history, because I think also memory, history, the way we kind of write narratives, they of course have politics, and maybe there is something that art can do.
So and that's going to be my last question. Peter Brook wrote a book called L'Espace Vide. And in this book, there is a quote who struck me because when I was reading about your performance, he says, behind the happening, there is a scream, wake up. Do you agree or disagree with this?
Behind the screen, there is a...
behind the happening, there is a scream, and he says, wake up.
It says, wake up.
Yeah.
I mean, my first association, because l'espace vide means like the empty space, like the... Yeah. So what is interesting with this monument in particular, like if you think, like what do monuments do usually? It's kind of commemorating some kind of nothing, because it's always something that has passed, a hero that has died and so on. So it's kind of nothing in a way, but it's commemorated through something very solid, very big. But in this case, what was really interesting, talking about vide or emptiness, is that the statue is not there anymore. And my first feeling when I saw it was that it's actually more powerful than when the statue was there. Because you just have the brand Lenin, it's still written on the pedestal, but it's not there. So it has kind of a lot of power to invite you to imagine stuff. And maybe that's the behind scream, I don't know. And when the statue was there, it's kind of a bit ridiculous, it's not such a great artist, it's a pose that it's not that interesting. You can mock it quite easily, it's kind of a closed case from the past, it's kind of a relic, like, I know that people get personal because it's there and about what it represents, but with the empty sort of like pedestal, to me this absence is actually kind of more powerful.
More present.
More present, yeah. Yep. So I don't know if that's exactly what the decommunization or the sort of people who topple the statue down would like to achieve,
Well, thank you very much for your views on this subject. So, as you said before, you have this talk today at Izolatsia at 7. If you were interested, thank you very much for joining us. It was Manuel Pelmus, artist and performer, talking about art and Ukrainian decommunization. Thank you for watching. Stay tuned for the rest of the program.